If you're considering starting a recruitment agency and you want to focus it on the US market, in fact, even if you have already got a recruitment agency and you want to focus in the US market, then this is for you because I'm going to talk you through everything that I would do step by step on how I'd win 100 clients within a month and all that without spamming them or losing the personal touch. So I have a lot to go over with you. This is everything on screen that I'm going to be talking through. Why you should do it, how you should do it, how you're going to make contact with them using LinkedIn and email. I'm going to give you the templates. I'll explain to you what enrichment means. And I'm going to show you how you can contact 30,000 people in one batch, all that without spamming them or losing the personal touch. And all of that is going to help contextualize what I mean by waterfall. So it's probably the most coolest part of the video. So you want to stick around to the end if this is something that you're serious about doing. So let's just dive in. So why should you consider the US market? And if you are already considering the US market, then you might know some of these reasons. But it's a bigger market. There's bigger fees. There's higher salaries. Recruiters are trusted and respected more than they are in some other markets. There's shorter notice periods. It benefits your business because you're going to have an additional revenue stream and it increases your enterprise value. If you don't know what that means, then check out the video that I made when I met Alex Hormozy and everything that I explained about why enterprise value is a good measure for the growth of your business. Moving on swiftly, this is how we're going to do it. In real terms, it's 3 steps I've just identified 4 here. The first is pick your niche, meaning you already have your niche, you know which market you're trying to focus in. You just need to focus in on the location because somebody in New York is probably not going to take a job in LA. Unless there's a serious relocation package and that's the done thing in your industry. But certainly for my market, relocation isn't the norm and I'm going to assume that in this video. Step 2, I'm going to go over how you find those leads. There's going to be people who are hiring. How do you find them? And there's people who are not hiring, but they still could be good clients. And I'm going to be going over them. The third option is existing clients, and this is through networking who you already know, meaning that they have an office local to the location that you recruit in, and they also have an office in the US, in which case you can ask for an introduction. I'm not going to be talking about this step in the video because all you have to do is ask for referrals and introductions, and I don't want to be talking to you about how you ask for referrals from your own clients. And then step 3 is making contact with them. I'm going to go over how you email them and how you message them on LinkedIn, and I'm even going to provide you templates with it. And the 4th step is you basically do recruitment. How would you handle a client that comes through your door at the moment? If they've got a job or if they've not got a job, how would you introduce yourself? And I'm going to talk you through the entire step. And overall, we're going to contact 30,000 people without spamming them or losing the personal touch. So let's keep going. So first things first is we want to check the niche. And we do that by doing 2 things. One is looking at our competitors and the other one is studying specialist job boards. So I'm going to take the example of accounting. You want to do this for your own niche, and let's just see what we can find. So to start, all I've done is I've Googled accounting recruitment agency USA, just to see what we can find. And first comes up Reed, who I'm going to ignore just because they're not a specialist recruitment agency. Same thing for Robert Half, although they have specialist departments. I'm looking for a niche specialist. So maybe Tiger Recruitment. Let's open them. Hayes have a desk in every single market out there. Maybe these guys because they're sponsoring it. And one more, let's consider Sparks Group. So I'm going on to recruitment agency websites just to see opportunities they might have listed, because if they've got a load of jobs in one particular location, that shortcuts my search for what I'm looking for. And when I'm looking at this website, I see finance manager, but mostly executive assistant. So this isn't the company that I'm looking for. So I moved on to this website, and these don't appear to have a job listing page, so I'm going to skip them as well. And the next company's website doesn't work. Great, we're stuck. So to help get me better search results, I've just added in the word LinkedIn at the end just to see what else it can come up with. And now we find Flex Finance, ACCT Positions. So let's check them 2 out to begin with. So I'm on ACCT Positions website and I can find these job listings. And I'm looking at them and it looks like all of them are in New York. So I'm going to say that New York is a validated market. I would kind of expect it to because it's a pretty big city over there. But nonetheless, I'm thinking New York is probably a location that we want to consider. So what this tells me is that New York is a good place to consider if you're recruiting accounting and finance. Now, that might not be true for some of the other markets, although New York is one of the biggest cities out there. So I'd argue it's probably going to be a good location for most niches that you're going to focus in. And the only other thing that we're going to consider is studying specialist job boards. So I've just Googled the ACCA careers website, and this is a professional body for accountants if you don't know what that is. But I'm looking for the job section. And here you can see all of these different locations where you can find job opportunities for accountants. Now, judging by this, it looks like there's a bigger demand for accountants in Europe, but because we're focusing on America, let's go to North America. And then when you look at all of the different locations in North America, United States is like the winner by far in terms of how many opportunities there are. And this is where it gets a little bit more interesting, because when we look at this, we can see how many job listings there are in every single location across the USA. And just looking at the numbers, California is a big one, 322. And going through all of them, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that have triple digits in terms of how many listings there are. Now, we already know about New York, but we didn't know about California. And this is as a state. So let's just go on California. And now when we break down the locations here, we can see that LA and San Diego, San Francisco, these are the biggest markets in California when it comes to accounting. Let's just go with the biggest one. Now, just keeping in mind that my preference is always to go for the biggest market. And that's because the chances of you securing a deal in the biggest market is going to be really high. However, the chances of you dominating that market is going to be a lot harder because you're going to have a lot more competition there. So if you go for a smaller market, the chances of you dominating that market is a lot higher because you've got less competition. You can choose if you prefer one or the other. My preference is always to go for the biggest market there because I want to see ROI on my investment as quickly as possible. So far, I'm narrowing it down. And I'm going to say LA, I'm going to say New York, and I'd start with those two as a target location for my new accounting desk that I'm going to start up in the US market. So far, what we've done is we've checked the niche, we found competitors, and we found job boards, and we know that both New York and California, LA in particular, are busy markets for an accounting specialist recruiter. So to find those hiring, it's literally studying the job boards. Now, I'm going to do it all for you step by step just so that you can see, but you can imagine this list can become pretty long, but let's do one for each one just so you know exactly what I'm doing. So for that, I'm going to head back over to the ACCA website. Now, you want to do the same thing for Google Jobs, LinkedIn Jobs, Indeed Jobs, go through all the job boards and just see what you can find. But here, thankfully, we have a filter. Let's just go direct employer. And we know that there's a possibility we might make contact with IQ, EQ, and they say, no, thank you, we don't want to work with you. But we can't assume that's going to be true for absolutely everyone. And this is just one way. So stick with me. But they're looking for a managing director. So let's assume that this is a job that we are going to be recruiting for. So how do we find the hiring manager? It's really straightforward. Let's Google it. I'm here on Google and I've literally put in this search. Let's guess what the job title might be of the hiring manager. I'm going to say it's going to be either director or CFO. I'll put in the company name, the location, and then LinkedIn just at the end of it. And I've used this search in Google in that format, as in job title, company, location, LinkedIn. And 99% of the time, you're going to find the right person on the first page. So we've come across Ian, we've found Chris, we've also found the actual job title itself listed on LinkedIn as well. We found John, and we found the company website. And this is probably going to be true for most markets. You want to find somewhere between 3 and 5 points of contact so that you can make sure that you're contacting all of the potentially correct people. So if you are correcting the wrong people, then at least you can help. And I think this is going to be true for most markets. Whenever you are contacting companies, you want to find 3 or 4 points of contact, 5 even better, because the chances of you getting through to the right person is going to be significantly higher. So first looking at Ian's profile, it looks like he has left the job, and I'm guessing just by the job title, it might even be his job that this company is trying to replace because he's left them and gone to another company. And this is not a dead record. This is potentially another hiring manager in another company that we could recruit for. And now I'm also looking at Chris's profile. He's also based in California and he's director, CFO services and accounting. Now, I have a feeling he might be the right person to get in contact with, but let's just have a look at the other one, which is John Legrand, CEO, UK, Ireland, and the Crown Dependency. Okay, so he's UK based. I'm going to say he's not the right person to get in contact with. For the time being, I'm going to focus on Chris, and he's going to be the person that we're going to try and get in contact with. Now, I'm just trying to speed this up so I can give you a demo on everything, but in your case, you want to find between 3 and 5 points of contact. I'm just going to do this one just to give you an example. So just for the purpose of my notes, I've copied these two links over. One is the link to the actual job, and then there's 1 point of contact. We should be able to find somewhere between 3 and 5 points of contact for every job that comes up. But let's just go with this one for now. And this is going to help you build a long list of people who you know are recruiting because they've advertised a job, especially if you've gone through all the job boards and you found all the points of contact and you Googled them like I showed you earlier. You're going to have 3 to 5 contacts for every single job listing that you can possibly find on the internet. Focusing on your target niche. There is a quicker way that you can do that, and I'll show you that a little bit later. I just want to build it out for you step by step so you can see how everything comes together. So moving on, that's how we're going to find people who are hiring. What about people who are not hiring, or at least haven't advertised that they're hiring, but they could well be good hiring managers that we can work with in our accounting specialist recruitment company? And for that, we're going to consider 2 ways. And one is a LinkedIn search and the other one is a lead scraping tool. Let's start on LinkedIn. And when I start on LinkedIn, all I've done is I've put in accounting at the top. I know this search is not going to be accurate. If you use LinkedIn Recruiter or Sales Navigator, it becomes more and more accurate, but let's just use the basic filters just so that we can see what's going on. So I filtered that down with New York and LA, and we've got over 500,000 results. So I'm going to adjust this and build out a Boolean search and see if this can narrow it down a little bit more for us. And it has. We now have Director of Accounting, Operations, Accounting Director, Small Business Owner who's an accountant, Entrepreneur Business Owner also in accounting. I'm going to say this search is significantly more targeted. If you know this niche better than I do, then you're going to know what you should be searching for. So I've just adjusted accounting to ACCA, and it looks like, besides 1 or 2 recruiters, we are finding mostly very senior level qualified accountants in our targeted niche. And that's how you're going to do it. You build out a LinkedIn search that is relevant for your market, where you narrow it down and it gets to at least 85% accuracy. And if you've got that, then that's another way. I'm going to assume this is reasonably accurate. I just don't know this market well enough to comment. But you as a recruiter in your niche, you will know, and you'll be able to see these profiles and say whether they're right or wrong for you. So now I'm going to save a copy of that. There is our LinkedIn search. And then we're going to also consider lead scraping tools. So now going over to look at lead scraping tools, I've got 3 options to talk you through and show you over where they would be appropriate. Now, ListKit does not have a free version for you to browse and see what kind of data it comes up with. And I'd leave this as an option just because it has some really refined filters, in the sense that if you're targeting a niche where it's really difficult to identify the specialist niche, unless you search for companies who use a very specific software, ListKit allows you to do that. You can search the users of software across the entire world and then narrow down those companies and find the points of contact. So for that reason, ListKit is good. However, if you don't have that challenge and you can find your niche either on LinkedIn or using some of the other tools which have a free version, then I'd recommend you use them first, just in case you find them and you don't have to pay this price. And that just means that ListKit is in fact a very good tool. It's just a lot more expensive depending on what you're trying to do. The next option is Clay. And similar to ListKit, it is expensive. I actually don't recommend you use this tool for finding leads. However, they just might have a filter that works really well for you. And it does have one particular use case, which I'll explain a little bit later. But I'm sharing these 3 tools with you because these are the ones that I have familiarity with and I know they work. So it's down to you to figure out which one is going to be the most suited one for you. We will be using Clay. It's just for the purpose of finding leads. I don't believe Clay is the best one for that. And my favorite option is actually Apollo. And that's because it does provide you a lot of information and it has a free version and you can get email credits and exports so you can kind of test how well it works. Now, I don't have any serious affiliation with Apollo, so it's completely up to you which one you use. I just find that for the purpose of finding leads, Apollo is the most cost effective. Now, if you have a market where in the entire US you have 48,000 contacts, just take out the premium package and just get all of them in one go, because then you don't have to run around trying to figure out which companies are going to be on our BD list next. You just have all of them in one go and you're going to find that for $99. And I suppose I should mention at this point, what I'm about to show you and set up towards the end of the process, it costs you less than the total price of one placement. So you only have to make one placement to make all your money back. So I'm just going to give you a little walk around Apollo because I already have an account with them. And you'll be able to see that some of the filters that they provide are near enough identical to what you're going to find on LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Let's build a search and narrow in on the accounting niche. So here I am, I've built out a search targeting accounting firms in the USA. Now, if you work in accounting, you might not think this is as accurate. I'm just trying to project the kind of things that I would filter for if it was my market, and these might not be relevant for you, but at least you can see on the side here that the actual search filters are very similar to what you're going to find on LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Keeping in mind one little function here, which is management level. You can search by management level because it automatically filters them instead of you having to put in a load of search titles for CEO and then Chief Executive Officer and then President and then Founder and Managing Partner. Instead of doing all of that, let's just go all for the management level because it's going to identify them for you. I've also put in the location, US. I've also put in employee count because in my mind, I'm thinking if they're less than 5 employees, then they're probably just starting out or they're too small and they're not going to be right for us. And then if they're 3,000 or more, then it's going to become a humongous firm. It's going to be a nightmare to break into. Now, that's just a common trend in the market that I operate in property and construction in the UK. If that's not true for you and the bigger firms are easier to break into from a recruitment perspective, then go for the bigger firms. I've just filtered this out for the purpose of a demo. I've also put in the industry as accounting and I've excluded staffing and recruiting. And then I've put in a few other filters because I'm thinking if someone's got less than 5 years experience, they're not going to have too much in terms of business experience, in terms of growing the company. And I'm also thinking that if they have less than 8 months experience in their current role, whether they've started a new company or they've joined into this new senior level position, then they might not be right for us because at the end of the day, they're going to be reasonably new into the job and they might not even have the authority to make any hires at the moment. So usually that comes through within 3 to 5 months. But either way, we've got 73,000 leads. So if it were me, I'd be saying, let's just scrape all of them and take 2 months worth of Apollo and buy additional credits and just get all of them going in one go. Because then we have the entire US market mapped out. We'll be able to see all the data. We can see where most of the companies are. We can run campaigns to all of them. And we're going to figure out which one is the busiest and the easiest market to recruit in. We already have an idea of that, but because we're going for the US market, why not just scrape all of them in one go, considering the difference in price? So for the purpose of my notes, I'm going to leave a link to the actual search that I've built in Apollo with 73,000 accountants. Having said that, just to narrow it down a little bit more, because we were focusing on New York and LA. So when we narrow that down, we get 6,900 results. And that does sound like a much more targeted market. It's completely down to you. I'd argue that if we're going for the US market, let's just go for all of them. We just know which ones we're going to focus on. So we've got all of that data saved. Now let's move into how we're going to make contact with them. So contacting them on LinkedIn is really straightforward and easy. All you've got to do is send them a connection invite. Now, if you've set up your LinkedIn profile correctly, if they view your LinkedIn profile, they should know what you're doing. So add in US market specialist, if you're the person who's taking care of that, into your LinkedIn profile so that they know who they're connecting with. And then those who do connect, just send them an introductory message. Explain who you are and what you're doing, but always start with a compliment. I've just found that this works really, really well. If there's somebody who's posting about anything on their LinkedIn profile, just compliment it. If they're talking about their kids, then clearly their kids mean a lot to them. If they're talking about cars, clearly it means a lot to them. If they're talking about jets and aeroplanes and whatever interest or hobby that they have, compliment them on that. And if you really struggle, then just compliment them on their experience. But start with a compliment and then introduce yourself. That's your LinkedIn connection work done. And just keep connecting in with all of those people in your niche and in your market, because you're going to pull through contacts just by connecting in with people who know what you specialize in. And the next step is going to be contacting them via email. So there's 2 types of emails that you're going to send. There's going to be emails to people who you have found live jobs for, and emails to people who you've just scraped using Apollo or one of the other tools. So we're going to separate them because they go into 2 separate categories. But for the purpose of the live jobs email, this is something that I've put together as a template. And I want to explain to you how I've come to this conclusion, just to show you how I'm going to try and personalize it. So the subject, I would set it as interview at the Melt. Now, that might not make sense to you, but the Melt is the highest rated restaurant that is closest to their offices in California. And all I did is I Google searched their office location, then went onto Google Maps and I found restaurants in that area, and I organized it so that it had a minimum of a 4.5 star rating. And then I found the one that was nearest to the offices. And this one is called the Melt. So you can Google it, you'll find it near the Golden Gate Bridge. But to their offices, the Melt is the best restaurant that you can go to, and it's within a 6-minute walk. So if we're dealing with high-end professionals who are probably going to be earning well over 6 figures, they're going to know the best food locations. And if they don't know, they're probably going to Google it. And they're going to realize that it's really close to where their office is. So I put together this email, interview at the Melt. I want it to look like this email is coming from somebody who already has familiarity with them. And if you have familiarity with someone, how do you email your friends? You make the subject and the email really short and to the point. You just say, hey, what about this? So interview at the Melt with the question mark, does the job perfectly. And I'd be putting in the person's name. So this is the LinkedIn contact that we found earlier, whose name is Chris, just scrolling up. And I'd be sending this email to Chris. Hi, Chris, is it a good location for an interview if your meeting rooms are busy? Question mark. You might see that I didn't move it down one step, and that's because when you view emails, when they come through to you, it usually shows the first line depending on what kind of setting you have in place. So just to cover ourselves, let's just let them see what the conversation begins like. And I've copied over the company name. So I noticed that, put in the company name here, is advertising for the job title that I found on the advert, a managing director position. That's why I'm making contact. We specialize in recruiting accountants, and I wanted to offer my services. Regards, Mohammed, the amazing recruitment company. Should capitalize all of it to make it look a bit more professional. The amazing recruitment company. P.S. If there's another person in your team I should direct my communication to, please let me know. And that would be the first email that I'm going to send to Chris. Now, if I'm struggling to find Chris's email address, then I'd go over to IQEQ and I would use the Hunter Chrome extension, because I am able to find email addresses on Hunter. So I'm just going to paste in Chris's name and let's see if it finds the email address. And there we have it. We have Chris's email address. So now we're going to use this to email Chris. And I recommend you download this tool because it's free. So just pasting it in here, we now have Chris's email address and we have a template email that we're going to send to him. Now, let's say Chris turned up in our lead scraping list and we didn't have a job that we knew he was recruiting for, then I'd send him a different email. But that email would be very similar to the one that I explained earlier. I just word it a little bit different. So in the subject, I'd put meet at the Melt instead of interview at the Melt. I'd still put his name in here. I'd call him Chris, but I'd compliment him very slightly. Love your experience showcased on your LinkedIn profile. They'll know that I've checked out their LinkedIn profile. And I'd say, I'm planning some trips to LA and thought I'd ask if you're okay with a meeting at the Melt to make it convenient for you. We recruit qualified accountants, and you can put in whatever niche you recruit in. I'm wondering if you're involved in the hiring process for IQEQ, ... Hope to hear from you. Regards, Mohammed, the amazing recruitment company. And they're the two emails that I'd be sending out to make sure that I'm contacting as many people as possible. But in real terms, if I did send that email, then I'm going to want to follow up a day or two later. So I'd follow up whichever one I sent to him with the following email, which is, hi, first name, if the Melt is not a convenient location for you, how about over Zoom? Regards, Mohammed. Again, always assuming that we already have some familiarity. And I'll give it a few more days and I'll send him another email just to check up on him. And then that email would say, hi, first name, appreciate you must be busy. I really do hope we cross paths in the near future. Regards, Mohammed. Keep that one a little bit shorter. So there we go. Now we've got two different templates to send to two different types of people, one who's hiring, one who we don't know that they're hiring, and a follow-up email. And this is the job that I would give to somebody if they said they wanted to start up a new desk in the US market. I'd say, look, here's a lead list. Here's all the people that you can contact. Here's how you're going to find jobs. This is how you find their email address. This is their LinkedIn profile. Connect with them on LinkedIn and send them a load of emails. Because when people do reply and they give you the job opportunities to work on, then you just do recruitment, as I mentioned earlier on. And to help them with that, I would just put it all together in a template. and I've done that for you here. So template 1, I'd say meet at, and then the nearest restaurant, as I described earlier. Put in their first name here, put in their location here, put in the same restaurant that you mentioned up there, put in the niche here, put in the company name in here, and then put in your name at the bottom. There's a template email. Like, literally take a screenshot of this and use it yourself, because you can use this template to give to literally anyone in your team, and that's how you can make contact with people, irrespective of whether you're targeting the US market or even locally, because it's the same way you personalize an email to make sure that it gets through to a local company. And template 2, same principle. I've put together a template for you. You can screenshot this and it's all yours for you to use. So let's talk about enrichment and why I mentioned enrichment. And that's because I want to make reference to what I mentioned earlier on up here, which is when you're using lead scraping tools. Now you're going to end up with an Excel spreadsheet of a list of jobs or even a list of people that you can make contact with. If you're organizing all of this into a CSV file or an Excel document, that's what it's going to finish off like. And certainly if you use Apollo or any of the other tools that I mentioned, you're going to end up with an Excel spreadsheet, a CSV file of all the leads that you've scraped with all of their details, emails, and everything else. But one step before you get to enrichment, there's one thing that I would recommend, and that is that you clean out the emails. And I've left a tool that I'd recommend you use that's worked well for me. So clean out the emails, and then we go over to the enrichment stage. And this is where Clay comes in, because we're going to use Clay for enrichment. So when you do log into Clay and you import your CSV file, you're going to end up with a long list here. Now, for the purpose of demo, I've just used myself because it's going to be quicker and easier for me to show you how to do one that I know 100% will work, as opposed to me doing an entire lead list, because it takes a little bit of time to process. I've got my full name, email address, LinkedIn profile, and company website. And I've run this search into Clay, which is the exact same one that I mentioned earlier to you. And this is the prompt that I've used to enrich it. So I'm literally telling Clay, which is an AI tool, to go onto the company website, find their address, find the nearest restaurant, and then give me the name of that restaurant. And you can see as soon as you click save, it starts to search for it. And this is why I wanted to show you one rather than give you a load of them, because it takes a bit of time to enrich. But it's just done that for me. Now it's found a restaurant called the Old Fountain. So if you Google search our company and where the address is, and you find the nearest restaurant, you're going to know it's the Old Fountain. I know that restaurant name because I know where it's located, and it's the exact same process for every single other company out there. However, play around with it. What other personalization tips can you use? You can use AI to do it, but there's also some built-in enrichments. We can put in bio. We can even use their education. We can find their Facebook profile, get their Instagram, their location, their work email address, their personal email address. So just for the benefit of showing you, let's see how much personal data it can find on me. So if I cut this video short, then it's sharing way too much personal information to my liking. So while that's enriching, let's go back to it. If we consider what enrichment does, that means it takes somebody who's at this stage up here, where you've just found a list of leads that you could potentially contact, and it skips this entire process because it's going to find all the data that we need to put into this email to make it personalized. So it finds the nearest restaurant, finds a first name, finds the office location. You already know your niche, and it tells you the company name. So if we can put this together as a templated email, then it's less work for the recruiter to go and do all of this research and go and find everyone, because this tool is just going to do all of it for you. So imagine you give all of those details to the recruiter straight away. They're going to be able to get this job done way quicker than if they were to do it manually one by one. And that is the value of enrichment. It's not essential, it's just optional, but I recommend it as an optional extra because it just makes it so much quicker. It's also worth mentioning at this point, what I've just described to you there is one way of generating leads, which is script the Apollo leads, got a template email, and then add in all the enriched personalized information into the Excel spreadsheet, and then download it and use it. And this is why I mentioned Clay earlier on, because you can also export people directly from Sales Navigator. But the slightly more cooler things that Clay will do is you can literally list the jobs. And if you find the jobs, then you can find the very specific jobs that you recruit for in your market, in your niche. So I'm just going to do a search to see if we can find the exact same job here. And there we go. We've now found 5 different jobs that are based in LA. They have the word accounting in the description or one of the keywords, and the job title is managing director. And I limited the search result to 5, but it found a total of 15. You can go through these LinkedIn links and it will give you them. If you're happy with it, you import it and you go through the same process. Find the point of contact, enrich the data with however you want to personalize it. I recommend local restaurant. Pull up the list and then begin to email people. So now you know how to do enrichment. Now, how do we contact 30,000 people? Because if you can send them the personalized emails like I've just described, and you do it step by step and you do it en masse, then there's no reason why you can't get loads and loads of clients from it. So I'm just going to do some quick maths for you. If we wanted to contact 30,000 people and we're going to contact them via email, then we need to understand the parameters. And that is that you can safely send around 50 emails a day without your email identified as a spamming account. So 50 emails a day. And just for the purpose of working this out, let's assume every month has 4 weeks in it, because then it makes it easy to work out that there's 20 working days that you're going to be sending these emails. So that's 20 days. And this is just a rule that I will give you when it comes to sending cold emails. You want to be sending them out from more than one email account. And if you set up a brand new domain and a brand new email account, then 3 email accounts per domain work really well. So just working out what we've done so far, 30,000 is our target, and we're sending them over 20 days in a month. We're sending 50 emails a day, and we're using 3 email accounts. So we're dividing that by 3. That leaves us with 10. 10 is a number of domains that we need to buy. And if you know how this works, or even if you don't, I'll just explain it to you. A domain is going to cost you $12 for the year. An email account, if you buy it through Squarespace, if it's Gmail, is going to cost you $6 per email. And everything else is just volume. And you can get a software for $99 a month to automate the sending of all of these emails for you so that they're all personalized and all go through to the right points of contact. So all in, this will cost you less than $500 to get going. And by the time you've got your first client and you've made your first placement, you would have made all your money back. And that's why I mentioned earlier on, the setup of this entire operation will cost you less than the fee that you're going to generate from one placement. So as long as you make one placement, it's a worthwhile option to explore. While we're talking about email automation, we can do the same thing with LinkedIn. Considering the only manual thing that you're going to be doing is sending out connection invites, get that CSV file and the LinkedIn search that I mentioned earlier on that's personalized to your market and plug it into the software that I've recommended in the description below. Now, I've left a discount code there because it works if you use my link. You don't have to use the link, but discount code and link is there for you. Plug in the CSV file, plug in the LinkedIn search, let it run. It will automatically connect in with the market in the background. And there you have it. You're going to be contacting 30,000 people in a month via email. You're going to be contacting as many people as you can within the limits of LinkedIn if you use the tool that I've recommended. And that's how you set up the entire thing, with one final thing remaining, which I mentioned was going to be the coolest part. Now, I want you to picture this. What I've described to you is a very linear workflow. And that means that I can talk through step by step what's going to happen. This is where you find the job listings. This is how you find the point of contact. This is how you find the person's email address. And this is how you put them into an Excel spreadsheet and then send them these emails. What if the entire thing could just be automated? Like the moment a job goes live, it delays it for a couple of days, and then it extracts all the information for the job, identifies a hiring manager, adds them into an email campaign, and then runs it in the background for you. You can. You only need one tool, and that tool is Zapier. And all of the entire process that I've just described to you can be set up to be fully automated and personalized and contact all of these people, and it will all run for you. And that's exactly how I would set up a new desk in the US market and win that many clients. Like I've mentioned 100, and that's because if you're contacting 30,000 people in a month, assuming a 1% conversion, you should have 300 meetings, and they're going to be a lot to handle. So you can tone it down or turn it off for a period of time. And assuming you convert only a third of them into paying clients or those that engage with you, there's 100 new clients. And if you are going to set this up then the only email tool that I would recommend you use is Instantly. Because once you do go into Instantly and you set up the accounts, you can literally just click in here and you can buy your domains directly through Instantly, and it will set up your email accounts and it will warm up the domains and it will do all of that for you. So I'll just buy 3 domains at $15 a go. And there you go. It's found all of the email addresses for me. It's going to set them all up for me. Place the order. Off you go. Enjoy. Make some money. And let me know when you do. Hope you've enjoyed this one. I'll see you in the next one.